years ago, my wife Stacy and I, we were living in South Africa, and our oldest Trey, he was around 2 years old, and at that particular time, Stacy was working, and I was staying at home watching Trey, and we wanted that to be reversed. We wanted me to be able to get a job and her to be able to stay home with Trey, and then hopefully other kids to follow. And so that was what we desired. And so, but at that particular time in South Africa, unemployment rate was around 25%. And so it was really, really hard to get a job. And it was even harder for me because I was a foreigner. And so we were looking around, but it was just really, really difficult. And then one time I came up on this job at a church, and they were looking for a pastor. And so I applied for that job, and I thought things were going well, and that was going to be the direction for us. And then I didn't get the job. And I won't tell you all the details around that, but there was some circumstances around that particular job and the way it went down and all that was really, really difficult. And it was also really difficult because as we looked at the future, it was as if we were stuck. It's as if we were stuck in this situation where she was working and I wasn't, and there was just no prospects for anything to change. There was no light at the end of the tunnel. It was just very, very dark and very difficult days in those particular days to figure out, okay, well, what's the future going to be? We want this to change. We want this to be different, but am I ever going to be able to get a job here? And so it was just really difficult. And it began to cause me to ask some really hard questions. And I asked the question, well, does God exist? And at this particular time in my life, I had already been a missionary for a few years. I had been a pastor of a church. And yet in this moment, in this season of life, I'm asking the question, does God exist? And if he does exist, well, does God know my circumstances? Because these circumstances are terrible. And there's no prospect of things getting any better anytime soon. And so, God, do you even know that these circumstances exist? And if you do know, well, then do you care? Because if you do know, well, then why am I in these circumstances? Why are things not getting any better? Do you really even care? And if you do care, well, do you hear my prayers? Because I'm praying for you to do something. I'm praying for you to intervene. I'm praying for you to change my circumstances, God. But are you even hearing what I'm asking? And in the midst of those circumstances, in the midst of all of that, God, where are you? I feel like I'm here all by myself. I feel like nothing's going to change. I feel like I'm stuck. And maybe for some of you, you may be in or have been in a circumstance where I'm calling in this series "In the Meantime," where it's a difficult thing. It's a set of circumstances. Perhaps it's a season of life where you just feel stuck. You feel like nothing is going to get better. You feel like there's no light at the end of the tunnel. You can't even see that. It's just really, really hard. Maybe for you, it's around academics. Maybe, for up until now, you haven't been taking your grades very seriously, and now it's too late. And now you can't get into the school you want to, or you can't have the major you want because you don't have the grades you want. And now it's like, well, now you're in the meantime. You don't know what to do. You're kind of stuck. Or maybe it's professionally. Maybe you've got a job and you don't like the job and you didn't want the job, but you got to have a job, and so but you feel like you're stuck. There's no prospects for anything better, and you're stuck. Or maybe you're in an industry where you didn't want to be. You wanted to be in that other industry, but they rejected you somehow, or you just couldn't do it, or whatever. And now you're in a different industry, and you don't really want to be there, but you just feel like you're in the meantime season of life. Maybe for you it's not that. Maybe it's relationally. Maybe it's medically. Maybe you got some kind of diagnosis. And what do we do when we're in the meantime season of life? It's not just a bad day, right? It's a bad several days. It's a bad season of life. In these moments, when we find ourselves in these moments, we tend to lose three things. We tend to lose joy, we tend to lose hope, and we tend to lose a sense of purpose. Because these things are hard. These are difficult. These are difficult times to go through. And when we see these things, when we're in the middle of these things, it's easier when we're later on and we look back. But when we're in the middle of it, we think we lose all of these things and we think, I'm never going to be happy again. Not only do we think I'm never going to be happy again, but we think nothing good can come from this. God, this is no good. This circumstance, this season, this difficulty, this is no good. There's no good that can come from this. Have you been there, or are you there now? Well, the good thing is that today I want to tell you a story about a guy named John the Baptist who found himself in a in the meantime moment, in the meantime season of life. And I think what he goes through, I think is going to help us understand how we can navigate these seasons, how we can navigate the in the meantime moment. Now, John the Baptist, he was the cousin of Jesus. John the Baptist was sent by God to this earth with a responsibility, and his responsibility was to prepare people for Jesus. He went to the Jewish people, and they were struggling a little bit with their religious systems and things like that, and so John went to kind of just wake them up. And so he was waking them up so that they could be ready for when Jesus came. And so that was John the Baptist. And Jesus loved John the Baptist. He thought the world of John the Baptist. In fact, this is what he said about him. He said, "Truly I tell you, among those born of women, there has not risen anyone greater than John the Baptist." That's what Jesus felt about him, his cousin. And so with that background in mind, with that backdrop, with that understanding, we move into the story. It says, when John the Baptist, when John, who was in prison. What? When John was in, but I thought him and Jesus were tight. I thought no one greater has ever been born than John the Baptist. What in the world is he doing in prison? Well, the reason why he was in prison is because he couldn't keep his mouth shut. And so what happened is there was a guy named Herod Antipas. Okay? Herod Antipas was the son of King Herod, who slaughtered all the babies when Jesus was born. You may remember that story we talk about sometimes at Christmas. Okay, so that is Herod Antipas. And he had many brothers, but one of his brothers was named Herod Philip. Okay? So we're with me here? Everybody in this story is named Herod, okay? So here we go, all right? So they're brothers, and they have a niece named Herodias, okay? So Herodias gets married to Herod Philip, and they're married, and then she divorces Herod Philip. Herod Antipas divorces his wife, and he marries his niece Herodias. It's like a soap opera in here, okay? And so here we go, all right? So now he's married, Herod Antipas is married to his niece Herodias. Well, John the Baptist comes along and he's like, that ain't right. And so Herodias gets her uncle husband. She gets him to throw John in prison. Are you with me? So that's why John is in prison. Now listen to this. When Jesus heard that John had been put in prison, he withdrew to Galilee. He's not coming to visit? He's not coming to break him out? He's not coming to set the record straight? It says he withdrew to Galilee. It says, leaving Nazareth, he went and lived in Capernaum, which was in the opposite direction. Instead of going this way, he went this way. So when John, who was in prison, about a year and a half, somewhere around there, he had heard about the deeds of the Messiah. He had heard about things that Jesus was doing. People would come to visit him in prison, and they would tell him about all these things that were happening in the area and all these things that were going on. And some of the things that they told him was what Jesus was doing. So he sent his disciples to ask him, "Are you the one? You see, because when John was in prison, and he was in there for a year and a half, somewhere around there, he began to do what you and I do when we're in the meantime moment, when we're in the meantime season. He began to do what you and I do. He began to doubt, and he began to have questions. And so he sent some of his guys, some of his disciples, to Jesus to ask, "Are you the one?" Jesus, I told everybody you were the one, but now I'm doubting. Are you really? I told everybody you were, but now I got questions. He said, "Are you the one who is to come, or should we expect someone else? Did I have it wrong? Am I in here for no good reason? Am I just wasting my life?" And Jesus replied, "Go back and report to John what you hear and what you see." And just so his guys wouldn't get confused, Jesus told them what they heard and what they saw. He said, "The blind receive sight, the lame walk, those who have leprosy are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised, and the good news is proclaimed to the poor." That's what you're to go back and tell John. In other words, guys, go back and tell John everything I'm doing for everybody else except you. But I thought you said John was the one that you loved. John was the one that was the greatest of all time. Well, if he's the greatest of all time, well, why aren't you doing anything for him? And isn't that what you and I think? When we're in those moments, when we're in those seasons, we think, God, what's going on? Well, you're doing all this good stuff for everybody else. You're doing things for them, and their life is just up to the right, and they're getting a promotion, and they're getting new jobs, and they're just having an amazing family, and they're going on all these vacations, and they're just doing all of these things. God, what about me? What about me and my life? And then your friend comes to you, and she was like, "Hey, guess what? I was at Walmart the other day, and I was just, a little in a hurry, and so I prayed, and I asked God for a parking spot right outside the door. And guess what happened? I got it." And you're like, "Really? God, what about my circumstances? What about me? I mean, you're doing all that for other them. That's great." And Jesus tells John's guys, "Hey, go tell him what I'm doing for everybody else." But then Jesus says this. He says, "Blessed is anyone who does not stumble on account of me." Blessed, happy, fortunate is anyone who does not stumble on account of me. You're blessed and you're happy when even though things aren't working out the way you want them to, even though it's difficult, even though it's hard, even though you feel like I'm being silent, even though your prayers aren't being answered the way you want them to be answered, even though sometimes I say no, even though your circumstances might never change, blessed are you if, even in the midst of all of that, you continue to trust me, you continue to believe in me, you continue to follow me, Jesus says. Blessed are you if you don't lose your faith because of your circumstances. If you don't lose your faith because I'm blessing everybody else. If you don't lose your faith and continue trusting me and following me, Jesus says, you will be blessed. So if we circle back to our questions, does God exist? Jesus would say, absolutely. That's why I came here. I came here to reveal the Father to you so that you would know better what He is like. Does God know what's going on in my circumstances? Absolutely. Jesus knew exactly where John was. He knew exactly what was going on with John. Does God care? Jesus absolutely cared about his cousin. And he cares about you. And he cares about me. Does God hear my prayers? Absolutely. Jesus constantly was praying to his Father in heaven, and he encourages you and me to do the same. And where is God? Jesus would say, God is with you in the circumstances. Even if he's silent, even if he appears to be absent, that is not the case. That Jesus would say that God is right there with you in the middle of those circumstances. Even when their circumstances aren't working out the way you want them to work out, even if they're difficult, even if they're hard, even if you see no light at the end of the tunnel and you have no prospects for things to get better, even if you feel like you're stuck and things never get better, because they never got better with John the Baptist. His circumstances never changed. He never got out of prison. But Jesus would say, in the middle of all of that, whatever it is that you're going through, however long your in the meantime season is, Jesus would say, God is right there with you. And so if you're in one of those seasons, or if you find yourself in one of those seasons, I think it would be helpful to make 3 statements that kind of come out of this. And the first statement is, I can be happy again. Jesus said, blessed are you, fortunate are you, happy are you, if you continue to follow me despite your circumstances when they're hard. If you continue to trust me, if you continue to lean into me, Jesus says, you will be blessed. So we can make that statement, I can be happy again. The second statement is something good can come from this, because that's what we think. We think this is for no good reason. This is just hard. This is just difficult. This is just no good. But God can take anything and redeem it. God can take any circumstance, any situation, any season of life. He can take that and redeem it and turn it into good. It doesn't mean it is good, but it means he can take good from it. He can bring good out of it. And the third statement is, there's a purpose to this pain. There's a purpose to this pain. You see, when we're in the circumstances, we don't think anything good can come from this, and we think this is for nothing, this is for no good, this is just get me out of these circumstances. And sometimes, God is doing something that we don't even realize. Sometimes God is orchestrating things. And I think Jesus would say, hey, there is a purpose in your pain if you allow God to use it. If you allow God to continue working in you. If you continue to trust him despite your circumstances. If you continue to follow him even though things aren't working out the way you want them to work out. Even though things aren't looking good. Even though there's no light at the end of the tunnel. Even though you feel like you're stuck, Jesus would say, God can use it and turn it into something good. He can bring a purpose out of it. So if you're in, or if you ever find yourself in an in the meantime season, I hope you'll remember John the Baptist. And remember, his circumstances actually never got better. And there's no promise from God that your circumstances will ever get better in this life. But what he does promise is that he will be with you through it all. And what he's asking you to do is to continue to trust him. Continue to think that he is good. Continue to believe that. Continue to follow him, to lead you in the circumstances and through the circumstances, even if they never change. And if we do that, if we do that, we will live the life that he's inviting us to live. Let's pray. Father, we thank you so much here this morning, God, that when things are bad, when circumstances are hard and difficult, God, thank you that you are right there with us. Thank you that you have proved yourself trustworthy of following, that you've proved yourself good, you've proved yourself faithful. And God, I pray for those who are currently in the meantime season. God, I pray that you would give them extra grace, extra mercy. Help them to navigate this season of life. God, that you would help them to trust you in all of this. We ask this in Jesus' mighty name. Amen.